Hello, this is Adam Jarczyk with Frontier Strategy Group. I'm on the ground in Jakarta this week speaking with executives here about infrastructure development and distribution management. Now, while these trips are always quite a bit of fun, they're not without their challenges. Taking the number one challenge for many executives here as an example, traffic remains a very serious problem. There's simply too many cars, trucks, and motorcycles on the roads fighting for too little space. And unfortunately, the situation is not likely to change anytime soon. This wasn't always the case. If we look back at the 90s, the number of motor vehicles per kilometer of paved road was fairly stable. But starting around 2000, that number began to rise dramatically, and it hasn't shown signs of reversing. Basically, Indonesia's infrastructure spending has not kept up with the needs of the country and of its people. This has had pretty massive ramifications for the country's economy. According to our calculations, Indonesia increased its capital stock by around 3% per annum between 2000 and 2014. If the country had managed to raise that number by an additional 4 percentage points, then average growth during that time would have accelerated from 5.3% to around 6.1%. And if the country had managed to add an additional 7 percentage points, then the average GDP growth during that time would have risen to 6.7%. To put that into other words, in the first scenario, the Indonesian economy would have added an additional $38 billion in real terms, and in the second scenario, it would have added an additional $70 billion in US dollar terms, in real US dollar terms. That's a lot of money that got left on the table. Now, the government recognizes that this is a problem, and as a result, the new president, Joko Widodo, has actually taken action. During the first part of his term, he boldly cut fuel subsidies back and reallocated that capital to infrastructure spending. Nevertheless, questions remain about the government's ability to actually mobilize that capital. Government officials are fantastic at paying themselves. They've even gotten pretty good at supporting social programs, but they're notoriously bad at spending on infrastructure. Generally speaking, money that's earmarked for infrastructure doesn't get spent until the end of the year, and it's not spent very efficiently. If the country can't figure out a way to change this trend and to actually spend that capital effectively, then the Indonesian economy is going to be in for a rough time. And so are those of us who have to travel between meetings here in Jakarta.